Welcome to my channel, Sonia Unapologetic. My name is Sonia, and on this channel, I talk about mental wellness and living a free life from a Black woman's perspective. Before going further, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to be notified every time I post a video. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how positive attitudes can really save a bad trip. So I am here in Merida, Mexico with a couple of my friends, and we had lots of hiccups at the start of our trip. And the first big hiccup was the fact that our Airbnb host stood us up. And if you have watched some of my previous videos, you've caught a video to where I did an Airbnb nightmare video a few months ago when some friends and I were staying in Cancun. It was actually the same friends that I'm with now. We were staying in Cancun, and we had an Airbnb nightmare because the water coming out of the faucet was blue. So I'm going to include that video in the description box so you guys can check out that previous video. So you're probably thinking like, Airbnb don't like y'all. Stop it. Stop going with Airbnb. But this time around, we stayed positive and everything worked out a lot better in this situation than it worked out in the previous situation. We took a 4-hour bus ride from Playa del Carmen to Merida, Mexico. We had booked an Airbnb. The day we booked the Airbnb through the app, we received a welcome message saying, thank you for booking. We're happy to have you as a guest. So we thought everything was fine. The morning before we got on the bus from Playa del Carmen to Merida, we sent a message to the host letting them know what time we would arrive. And then a couple of hours later, we sent another message to the host wondering like, okay, how is it that we're gonna get in? Like, what's the lockbox code? The check-in instructions said lockbox/host will meet you. So we thought that everything was fine. We did that 4-hour bus drive. And then when we arrived in Merida, we still had not received any communication that day from the host at all. We took a taxi from the bus station to the Airbnb, and we were thinking like, okay, when we get there, then the host will be there to greet us. That's what it says on the check-in instructions. But we got there, there was no one there. We knocked thinking that maybe the host is already at the home. Maybe the host lives right around the corner and she'll see when we arrive. And none of that happened. It was starting to get dark at that point. So we called the host and we didn't get an answer. And we weren't quite sure because we called from a US number to a Mexican number. We weren't sure if the call just wasn't going through. So we had the taxi driver call. And when he called, he said, yeah, the phone call is going through, but it's just going to voicemail. So we called back and we left a voicemail. And then we waited for a bit, still nothing. We saw a car drive up. We're like, okay, that's the host. But no, it wasn't the host. It was just a neighbor. And they spoke very little English, but basically they're telling us like, yeah, that's Airbnb right now. They're Airbnb, and it's a lockbox, which we knew that it was a lockbox. We just didn't have any communication with the host to get a code. So we called Airbnb and we told them the situation. So they said, let us try to get in contact with the host. They called a few times. They messaged, we were on the phone with them. Maybe we stood out there for maybe 15 minutes, and they couldn't get in contact with the host. So we walked around the corner with our luggage. It's at night. We're in the neighborhood in Merida, Mexico. But one thing I can say, Merida, Mexico is the safest city in Mexico. It's safe. So we walked around the corner to a restaurant and we sat there, we got something to eat, but then we called Airbnb back and we're on the phone with them for about an hour, just trying to figure everything out. It's like, okay, we're here, we have our luggage, where are we gonna stay for the night? Airbnb canceled the reservation because they're like, okay, you can't get in contact with the host, you can't get in, so they canceled the reservation on their end. They told us to find a hotel, and once we found a hotel, they agreed to give us 30% off of the hotel that we found. I walked to the hotel that was next to the restaurant. My friend stayed at the restaurant. I walked to that hotel, with my limited Spanish. I told them that we needed 3 separate rooms. We needed to see what they had available for the night. They told us they had 3 separate rooms available, but I wanted to see the room. But the lady at the front desk, she's like, I'll show you photos. Like, she showed me pictures. I'm like, oh, okay, that looks nice. It was $47 US. I walked back to the restaurant and told my friends the hotel next door, they had 3 rooms available. It's $47 US. We finished eating there, we paid, and we walked back to the hotel. But my friends were like, but we need to actually see these rooms before we book it and pay our money. And I'm happy that they were adamant about that, because when we went to actually see the rooms, it wasn't where we would have felt comfortable staying. I guess there was a reason why the lady was like, no, I'll show you photos. I'll show you photos. But when we saw the rooms, we're like, no, this is not going to be where we want to stay. While we were at the restaurant, we had been on the phone with Airbnb for an hour, but we had been messaging other Airbnb hosts, and we found a host to where he's like, I can get you guys in tomorrow morning, but I can't get you guys in tonight because I'm just not going to be able to get my crew out there and clean. But he said, I suggest that you stay at the Hyatt. He actually reached out to the Hyatt, made sure they had 3 rooms available, told us what the US price was. And he's like, I suggest you go stay at the Hyatt, and then tomorrow I'll have the house ready for you guys tomorrow. He's like, I'm so sorry it's happened to you, which I thought that was so sweet. And Airbnb can be a gamble because it just depends on what host you're dealing with. That guy, we hadn't even paid him any money yet. We hadn't even booked with him, and he was like giving us customer service. And this was just someone that owned the home here in Merida, and he was like trying to help. So we ended up taking a taxi to the Hyatt, and we just stayed at the Hyatt that night. So I suggest as well, if you're ever in Merida, Mexico, the Hyatt was a beautiful hotel, a really nice stay. I'm going to include another video, and once I'm done with that, I'll put in the description box that just shows the scenery, the restaurants that we've gone to. It's going to show the house that I'm in right now that we decided to stay in here in Merida. So I'll just kind of show you some visuals of my trip. But after talking to Airbnb several times, they finally agreed to pay full price, reimburse us full for our 3 separate hotel rooms at Hyatt. So I was very appreciative of that. A funny thing about the whole situation is the host of the first house, the ones who stood us up, she messaged my friend at like 2 a.m. and the initial message said, we found the keys. I don't think that message was supposed to go to us. I think that was maybe supposed to go to maybe the co-host of the property. I don't think that was supposed to go to us. So at 2 a.m. she's like, I found the keys. And then there was another message that was like, we're ready for you guys to come. We were trying to reach out to you guys and we couldn't get through. We couldn't reach out to you guys. So where are you guys at? And then at 5 a.m. my friend received another message like, we're ready for your arrival. Where are you guys? It's like, we're sleeping. At 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. we're sleeping. So that was just really weird and janky because if I owned a home and I was Airbnb-ing that home, if somehow with technology I could not get a message to my guests, I would have called Airbnb and said, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on. My guests were supposed to be here at this time. I have not been able to get the message to go through. Are you able to reach out to my guests? And it's mighty funny that the first message went through, and also that message at 2 a.m. at 5 a.m., the next day went through, but the other messages never went through. Another thing that I probably would have done was just have someone that I know hang out the house, or me hang out at the house. If I was just like, okay, they told me they were going to be here at a certain time, let me just kind of sit at the house today, or have someone I know sit at the house so they can greet the guests and they can get in. But I guess some people just don't get it. Like, they don't understand that it's truly an inconvenience, and it's scary when you're coming to a city and you need somewhere to stay and you haven't made contact with the host, so you don't know where you're going to stay for the night. So I guess some people just don't think of, okay, what is everything that I can do to make sure that my guests have a smooth transition. But my guess about that whole situation is that they probably just forgot or something. It's like they sent the welcome message, and then when we were supposed to get there, it's probably just kind of like, oh, we forgot. And then at 2 a.m. it's like, oh, those Airbnb people are supposed to be here today. Oh, I think that's what happened. I really think that's what happened. Then they're trying to save face, like, we tried to contact you. Where are you? It's 2 a.m. No, that's not what happened. Somebody's lying. But back to my previous point about keeping positive. I'm with ladies on this trip to where we were all able to stay positive. Yes, we were upset, but we didn't allow that to make us upset at each other. I don't know if you've ever been on a trip with people, and when things are going wrong on a trip that's outside of our control, it's like everybody in the group start getting mad at each other. Have you ever had that happen before? And I've been on trips to where we've had way less hiccups than this trip here in Merida, but because the people in the group were not able to keep cool and stay positive, it just ruined the whole trip. And you don't want to spend your money on a trip for the whole trip to be ruined. So the Airbnb situation is not the only thing that happened on this trip. We also, from Hyatt, we took an Uber to a restaurant, and we put all of our luggage in the trunk. We put a couple of our backpacks in the trunk. When we got to the restaurant, the Uber driver took out all of our luggage, our suitcases. He handed back one of the backpacks. I guess the other backpack was shoved, in the back of the trunk. And he didn't give us back that other backpack. So we were sitting down eating, and one of my friends was like, oh my goodness, where's my backpack? And then she realized my backpack is in that Uber. So that's another thing to where it's like we had to stay positive and stay cool-headed, because a lot of people in Merida, it's not like you're just speaking full English to them. There's some people here that will, speak some English, but the waiter at the restaurant, he spoke all Spanish, and the Uber driver, he spoke all Spanish. So we had to talk to the waiter to have him help us get on the phone with the Uber driver. And with our, broken, Spanish, the little bit of Spanish that we know, we're able to have the waiter understand, like, hey, I need you to speak to this Uber driver and let him know that I left my backpack in his car. So the Uber driver spoke to us and said that he had gone out of town after he dropped us off, but that he could have the backpack back to us at 8 p.m. So had we not stayed positive, when I told my friend, like, it's okay, we're gonna get your backpack back, we're gonna get it back. If she hadn't stayed positive, she could have been like, well, that's easy for you to say, it's not your backpack. It's like, that could have ruined the whole trip, and then we're fighting with each other. So it's just very important that you travel with like-minded people and like-lived people. And the like-lived term, I get that from Where's Ali. I'm going to put her channel in the description box. She is another digital nomad. She's traveled to several countries, but I like that concept, just to understand that when you're traveling with someone, or even if you're deciding that you're going to live with someone abroad and y'all are going to share an apartment or share a house or whatever, it's just important that you all live the same way. Otherwise, you can have some great people, but they just don't live life the same. They don't think the same. So they're gonna bump heads, and it's just gonna make it a lot harder because they weren't supposed to be traveling or living together in the first place. So I think that's about all I have to say about all of this. Again, I think this time around, Airbnb did a lot better job. Once we just really were adamant about, like, we want this to be taken care of, they reimburse the hotel stay at first, hotel stay, and us with 3 separate rooms, and they gave us a discount on the stay for us to get into a new Airbnb. So that wasn't the case with the last situation. Even though we were in a house that had blue toilet water coming out of the faucet in that house in Cancun, we didn't get back a full refund, even though we didn't even stay in that house 24 hours. Because once that blue water started coming out of the faucet, we were like, oh no, we're out of here. We are out of here. And Airbnb still was like, no, we're not giving y'all back 100% of y'all's money. And we just didn't understand why. So I guess it's kind of up in the air. It's like sometimes you'll get what you deserve, and sometimes you just won't. So I'm just happy that everything worked out with this trip, and that the rest of our trip has been beautiful. And again, I'm going to put in the description box, once I finish the video that shows the pictures and some footage of this house and some of the restaurants we've gone to. You guys are really going to want to check that other video out, because I'm going to tell you about an amazing restaurant that we went to where if you come to Merida, you're gonna have to check out that restaurant. I guess that's dependent on if you like that type of food, but I'm gonna have all that information in the description box once I finish that video. So that is all I have for you guys now. Stay positive. Get down in the comments and tell me about your trips. Have you ever had a trip to where positive energy has saved a bad trip, or has negative energy ruined what could have been a good trip? Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to be notified every time I post a video, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.